My name is Vivian. I'm DVU's project manager for our supported decision making, training, and information center. And today it's going to be a presentation all about an introduction to supported decision making. This is a part of our parent and family member supported decision making, train the trainers. And the goal is for you to be able to learn these skills today, as well as on March 6th, more about supported decision making and how to be an advocate, how to be a trainer, how to present on supported decision making, and help others learn more about supported decision making as an alternative to conservatorships. So I just want to start out with you have the ability to protect your child even more with support and without the court, and that's called supported decision making. A lot of times, a lot of parents and family members, when they're thinking about what to do after your child turns 18, it's all about protection, wanting to protect your child and doing what you can to protect them from abuse, from scams, and from everything like that. And so we just want to assure you that even though right now it still feels that conservatorship seems like the default option that maybe doctors or even the school systems or regional centers are pushing you towards, we want you to learn about supported decision making today. And so, just kind of a brief overview today, we'll talk about the risks of conservatorship. Introduction to supported decision making, talking about decision making and capacity building, supported decision making in action, and then finally your role as a presenter and a co-trainer here with DVU. And we'll also have Victoria as well as her son Fernando share their story after our slides here today, talking about their journey on they left their conservatorship and how Fernando is able to use supported decision making in his life and his thoughts on restoring his rights as well. So we'll start off with the risks of conservatorship. We'll start off with what is a conservatorship. So conservatorships are created from a formal court hearing before a judge, and at this hearing, the judge appoints a court-appointed conservator to make decisions for the conservatee or the person with the disability. And this results in the loss of rights. So oftentimes when they're placed under a conservatorship, you'll have no control over how or what you spend your money on, how to manage your health care, who they see or spend their time with, who they live with, where they live with, and who their friends may be, who they may date, whatever types of relationships they may pursue. So it really results in the loss of rights for that individual. And this conservator makes all decisions for the conservatee. And so, what are the risks to this? Oftentimes, it is a permanent decision. Victoria and Fernando will share later about how they were able to reverse it, but it is often a difficult process. Other things is there's a lack of court checkups. And this is concerning because in the United States, half of conservators are strangers. Even though at the hearing, the court appoints a conservator, and oftentimes maybe it's the parent who petitioned for a hearing for the conservatorship, and the parent is appointed the conservator. At any time, the courts can strip the parents of the role of the conservator and hand it off to someone else. Um, Sometimes the regional center acts as the agent for DDS. As the conservator, there's also professionals that become professional conservators, and they're paid out of the conservatee's funds. And so all this is to say is the conservatorship is in the hands of the courts. So at any time, let's say um, they can remove the parents as the conservator for any reason and appoint a different person. And that would let that new person limit things in the conservatee's life, including visitation with their parents and family members. And another big thing is that there's no clear succession plan. Let's say you are the appointed conservator for your child. When you pass, maybe your wish is that the conservatorship goes to a sibling or their aunt or their uncle, but you can't be sure that that's who the court will appoint next. i- other issues is that there's no extra protection. There's no extra protection if your child gets involved with law enforcement. There's no extra protection from financial scams or anything like that. And so we really want to emphasize that supported decision making is an alternative to this. You're able to still protect your child and circle them with the circle of support without having to risk all of these decisions being in the hands of the court. And so we'll go ahead into what is supported decision making? What is this alternative to conservatorships? What's the alternative to taking away the rights of my child? And what's the better way to protect them? And so supported decision making, you're able to choose your supporters to help make decisions, to help understand, consider, and communicate these decisions. And unlike conservatorships, it's designed to change as life changes. In conservatorship, let's say you want to move. A lot of times, depending on what county you live in, you may have to notify the courts. If you want to change in the conservatorship, again, that requires a court process. Whereas here, let's say at one point in time, mom and dad is the best person to be the supporter. But maybe down the line, now maybe the siblings are the best person to be supporters. It can change as life changes. And the individual with a disability is in the driver's seat to help determine who they want to be their supporters. Supported decision making can be very informal and it can be practiced without having to involve the court systems. But you can also write it into formal documents when necessary, such as supported decision making agreements, which we'll mention later on. And so, what we really want to focus on and emphasize is that with supported decision making, it's all about this circle of support and who can be in this circle of support. It can be family members, it can be staff, it can be friends, it can be professionals, it can be someone like their communication partner, it could be a past or current doctor. And all these people are encouraging to help them seek help with their decisions. All these people have and are invested in the success of your child. And so, unlike conservatorship, where it becomes very limiting, there's only one person that makes all the decisions for you. Here, you get to surround them with all these people to help them. And it really does help limit the amount of abuse when there's multiple people having an input and helping them and helping them make decisions that are best for them. And so we'll go into the advantages of supported decision making. Like I was mentioning earlier, it allows for an expanded circle of support, helping as they become adults. They have an expanded group of trusted group of supporters, including those outside of their family. And this is great so that they can continue to have that support in no matter in their life. Another big thing is support without the courts. You have the ability to change your mind. They can change their supported decision making agreement. They can change who their supporters are, where they want support, how they want support. Other things are you can attach it to legal binding documents. There are other documents, supplemental documents that you can use in conjunction with supported decision making to help facilitate this process. And so some of those include powers of attorneys, HIPAA authorizations, and we'll mention those later on. And another big thing that parents really focus on is moving at your own choice. If your child uses supported decision making and they're not conserved, you don't need anybody's permission to move. You're able to move freely and without having to notify the court system. And so this allows flexibility in their lives and it allows your child to stay in the driver's seat and to learn and to make these decisions with support of others. So now we'll go into our section on decision making and capacity building. Supported decision making is a communication tool. It's this process that allows you to help advocate for your child's decision making process. And this all begins with presuming competence. All of us make decisions, and all of us use help to make decisions no matter who we are. Um, Recently, I just went to the doctor's office, and even after the doctor's office, I found myself calling my dad and calling my uncle, who's also a doctor, to get a second opinion before I made any decision about my health care. Maybe that's the same way for you. Maybe it's with electronics. Sometimes I know that I have trouble with technology sometimes, and with my dad having a computer science background, I know that I can lean on him to be a supporter to help me make those decisions. And so all of us use it. And this begins with presuming competence and um, understanding that communication happens at such different levels. And for us as supporters to understand what and how they like to communicate, it can happen things such as a choice board. It can be more high tech, whether they're a typer and they use their iPad to communicate, or it can be a letter board, or it can be through gestures and facial expressions. Other things we want to talk about when we're talking about supported decision making is the dignity of risk. Um, Decision making is a skill that we all learn. We've all made bad decisions before and we learn from them. And when we learn from them, we learn to make better decisions in the future. And so we all have this right for dignity of risk to allow to have some risk in our life, for us to have autonomy over our lives and to learn from these mistakes. If we don't allow our children with a disability to have that same freedom, to have dignity of risk, to presume their competence, and for them to be able to make mistakes and learn from them, we're not enabling them to learn and to become better decision makers. And so these are kind of some founding principles of supported decision making and wanting to build their communication skills as well. And so, like we mentioned earlier, as a supporter in supported decision making, it's all about understanding and supporting their communication preferences. And they can look different for everyone. It can be as formal as making a person centered plan and learning about what they like and what their dreams are, what their goals are, what their aspirations are. But it can also be as simple as facial expressions or gestures. With supported decision making, we have to respect the choices our loved one is making. And it's important for us to help them make these decisions, but not to make the decisions for them. So don't rush your child, don't force them into making a decision. Let them consider all of their options. So this goes into explaining choices clearly, which is a big key principle of supported decision making. Explaining things and explaining choices in a way your child understands, using maybe images, words, voices, videos, addressing pros and cons and potential consequences. Don't be afraid to advocate for your child's communication preferences, and don't let others make the decision for your child or pressure you to make the decision for your child. And so, a lot of times when we talk about self advocates, they often mention that in a lot of meetings, a lot of times adults are talking about them without them being a part of the conversation while they're sitting there. And so, a big part in supported decision making is making sure a child with a disability stays in the driver's seat and is a part of these types of conversations and a part of the decision making. And here we have some more information about practicing supported decision making with non speaking individuals, making sure that they have access to communication technology that they use, making sure information is plain language, they have visual or audio materials, and ensuring that they have trained partners if they use AAC and they need a communication partner. Um, Making sure that they have those types of accommodations so that they are still able to be a part of the decision making process. So, what does this look like in action then? Before you start with supported decision making, it's always important to sit down with your child and talk through about exploring decision making supports. And so, it's talking about who they want to support them, when they want to support, when they want the support, what type of support they want as well. And so here, this chart gives an example of deciding for daily life and employment. And so you can sit down with your child and talk about things just like on one of the topics is do I plan what my day will look like? And they can decide maybe this is a decision that they can make on their own and they don't need any support with it. Maybe this is something they need support with, making decisions about their day-to-day plan. Or maybe they can decide that this is something they want someone else to decide for them. Um, with supported decision making, that is also an option for them to decide. The next step would be for them to decide who they want to support them in this specific avenue. With the supported decision making, as we're surrounding ourselves with different people, it can always change, right? So maybe mom is the best supporter for healthcare decisions, but maybe uncle is best for financial decisions, or maybe grandparents are for daily living, or maybe that's even their caregiver or communication partner. And so this is always important to sit through and talk through what type of support and then how they want to be supported as well. We'll talk now about supported decision making in healthcare. Um, Again, trusted supporters help them access healthcare, whether that's driving them to the facilities, helping them understand medical information, helping them make medical decisions and making informed decisions and giving informed consent for medical procedures. Like all of us, people with disabilities may need support to help understand the healthcare information, to communicate with their doctors and nurses, as well as manage their daily health needs. Here, it allows adults with disabilities to name trusted supporters to help them access healthcare. And with the new law, AB 1663, that was passed in 2022, this allows individuals with disabilities to have a supporter with them at any meeting that they want, whether that's a doctor's visit, maybe it's an IPP meeting, allows them to be in the room to help support them. And so, continuing in healthcare, we have this support sheet, and then we'll drop a link in later where you can have access to these other materials as well. But we have a one-page guide to help healthcare providers understand and how they can understand and support and accommodate patients with disabilities, as well as an a graphic right here, which is a healthcare passport, kind of a one sheet on all about your loved one, talking about if I'm in pain, how they communicate that. If they get upset, what are the best ways to soothe them, especially in the healthcare setting. It can be kind of an upsetting situation sometimes. And now we'll talk about supported decision making in finances. And so oftentimes as parents, they worry about their child being taken advantage of financially. You might be concerned that someone will try to steal your adult child's money or make them sign contracts that make them liable for paying out money that they don't necessarily have. And so there's many different ways you can use supported decision making in finances. Some ways are having a joint bank account to help them manage their money without overspending. There can be a durable power of attorney for finances. You can also use CalAble accounts, which parents are able to add money into there and contribute into there without affecting their Social Security, Medicaid, or Medicare status. And in CalAble accounts, you're able to pay for things such as housing, transportation, healthcare, other basic living expenses. Other things include special needs trusts, allowing family members and supporters to set aside funds for individual with a disability without jeopardizing their public benefits. And then there's representative payee, which allows you to help manage their money that they receive from SSI as well. And with supported decision making, again, it can look different for everyone. I was a caregiver for a woman with autism, and she struggled with her finances and asked me to help her be a supporter with her finances and think of a structure for her to become and learn more about financial independence, but having support with them. And so we came up with a system where for her, using a credit card or a debit card was really confusing for her. It made it really hard for her to manage how much money she was spending, how much money that was coming in. And so we sat down with her mom, and we came up with a system of where the beginning of every week, we're going to go to the ATM and we're going to withdraw what our budget is for the week, what we've accounted for the week, considering what our income is, what we plan on using to pay for meals, pay for transportation, pay for other things, and we're going to take that out, and that's what we have to use for the week. And then at the end of the week, we'll come back and sit and look at the budget. Did we underspend this week, and will that impact our budget for next week? Or maybe there was a time where we really wanted to buy something, but we had no more cash, and so now we're going to look into next week and develop a better plan for next week to make sure that that's not the case as well. And so it's flexible and it looks different for everyone and how they want to be supported as well. Other areas we use supported decision making is in education, especially when we talk about how schools often push parents when their child is at transition age youth and they're about to turn 18 into conservatorships. We just want to ensure you that you can still stay involved in your child's education with supported decision making without having to get a conservatorship. And supported decision making can be practiced from a very early age here. And this starts with letting them attend their IEP meetings. Maybe it's just attending at first and then building up to student-led IEP meetings where they're making their own goals. So again, that's a big thing, IEP goal setting, and we have to think about what supports that they may need to have it. Maybe this requires a conversation beforehand where you sit down with your child and you talk about what goals they have for their education, talk about what their aspirations are in school, talk about where they're struggling with and maybe where they need more accommodations, and having that conversation beforehand so they can feel prepared when they enter the IEP meetings. Other areas supported decision making is great in is in voting. A lot of times in conservatorships, their right to vote is taken away. But this is such an important right that we all have. And so making sure they understand who they're voting for, what they're voting for, understanding the registration process and using the support there. Supported decision making in public safety and law enforcement. This can also be things such as building relationships with your neighbors to understand what types of supports you may need in an emergency situation. Other areas include supported decision making and advocacy and helping educate other providers as well. And so we'll go into some helpful forms for supported decision making. Like I said earlier, supported decision making agreements are not required, but some families may find it is helpful. They sign a document where they name who their supporters are. They want their supporter to help them with what types of decisions. These can be notarized and attached to other legal documents, but this is not required unless you are currently in a conservatorship and trying to exit the conservatorship. That is the only time when supported decision-making agreements are required. Here we have just kind of a general overview of different types of forms that can be helpful when practicing supported decision making. And again, this will be in the handbook that we link for everyone as well. And so things such as if you're trying to support their child at school, you may want to have a form for educational disclosure to make sure you're able to be involved in that communication. For the doctor's office, that might include a HIPAA authorization, to allow you to stay in the loop of that type of communication as well. Um, and so this kind of talks about other types of forms that we can use in conjunction with supported decision making to help us practice it. And now we'll talk about 5 tips to get started. One is learning more about supported decision making, and that's what you're already doing being here. We'll link our handbook as well, which is a really great document talking about it, more about supported decision making, going in depth to all these topics as well. We are in the process of updating it more, so be on the lookout for an updated version, but for now, we will link what we currently have. Next steps also include helping your child identify supporters and helping them create goals. Maybe the goal is finding more supporters, right? I think a lot of times we um, don't want to limit where their support to just being family. We want to include friends, other professionals as well. It can be to create a supported decision-making agreement if you desire, and determining what forms are needed depending on what supports that they want. And then just begin advocating for just supported decision-making in your child's life. And this can feel as simple as when someone is having a conversation about your child, making sure that they address your child rather than addressing you, um, and making sure that they're a part of that process. And so we'll go into your role. And so the power of your story as a parent, as a family member, it's sharing your perspective and adding in your lived experience into the curriculum. What we showed you today is kind of our base curriculum on supported decision making that we're plan on presenting to other parents, self advocates, as well as professionals such as the court investigators, special education professionals as well. And so it's important to share your story and to share your impact, and to be able to connect with your audience. Each of you have a unique story. Each of you have a story of how you use supported decision making in your life with your child. And telling that to other fellow parents and family members is really powerful. And it's a great way for us to learn from one another and share about our challenges and help find solutions for one another as well. I want to end off with this quote: everyone, regardless of their disability or what supports they need, um, they have the right to make choices and to make decisions. And so I just really want to end up with that. We started this off talking about how, as parents, as family members, we just want to protect our loved one. And we also want to really ingrain in ourselves that um, we all have the right to make choices, and no matter what type of support that we may need. And so, with that, I'll go ahead and open it for some questions and answer questions, um, before we invite Victoria and Fernando to share more about their story as well.
Hello. Thank you, Vivian. Is the questions first, or can I start?
We can go ahead and everyone can continue to put questions in the chat, and we'll go ahead and look at them after. So Victoria and Fernando can go ahead and begin sharing their story, and then we'll go back to the question and answer. So feel free to keep typing the questions. We're making sure we're looking at that as well.
Okay. Thank you, Vivian. I like all the valuable information you're sharing. And hello, my name is Victoria, and I want to introduce my son Fernando here with me.
Hi.
Okay. Fernando will share why we decided he terminate his conservatorship, and also he wants to talk about the benefits of supported decision making, or SDM. I know you already explained very good, but maybe he will be emphasized a little bit more. And at the end, I think I will share the steps we follow for this process of termination of conservatorship here in California.
Hello, my name is Fernando. As my mom mentioned, this January 13, 2025, my conservatorship was terminated with the court after 7 years. One thing I mentioned to the judge is that I want to terminate the conservatorship because I wanted to use supported decision making that was signed by Governor Newsom on September 2022. When my mom made the conservatorship for me, she did not know the alternatives of the conservatorship, and the regional center told my mom that she needs to do that in order to talk with her after I turned 18 years old. Even when my conservatorship was limited, it removed some of my rights. The court investigator came to my house every 2 years to make questions and inspect my house. It was intimidating for me. After years, we realized some scary cases of people with disabilities with conservatorship were removed from their own homes by the court, and we started learning about the alternatives of the conservatorship. Now that I have my rights back, I feel more secured, empowered, and with the freedom to make my own decisions using supported decision making with my trusted supporters without the court. And the best thing is that you can change your supporter when you need to. I think that people with disabilities have to understand that they have alternatives to the conservatorship, which is supported decision making, or SDM. The AB 1663 formally recognizes supported decision making as a viable alternative to conservatorships in California. Courts are required to consider SDM as a less restrictive option before imposing a conservatorship. SDM is a process by which individuals with disabilities receive assistance from trusted supporters to make their own decisions. Unlike conservatorships, SDM does not remove decision making authority from individuals. Instead, it empowers them to make their own choices with the support they need. Individuals identify and choose trusted supporters, family members, and or professionals who help them understand the situations they face and the choices available. Supporters provide guidance, information, and assistance without making decisions on behalf of the individual. Decisions made through SDM reflect the individual's preferences, values, and goals. Here are some benefits of SDM. 1. Maintains autonomy. Individuals retain their legal rights and decision making authority, which promotes self determination and personal empowerment. 2. Customized support. Support is tailored to the individual's unique needs and preferences, making it flexible and adaptable and allowing for varying levels of assistance. 3. Improves quality of life. It encourages active participation in personal, financial, and healthcare decisions, building confidence and independence. And lastly, I want to give some examples of SDM. 1. Healthcare decisions. An individual with a disability may receive support from a healthcare advocate to understand medical options and make informed choices about treatments. 2. Financial decisions. A trusted supporter may assist with managing finances and budgeting and making financial plans, while the individual retains control over their own money. 3. Daily life decisions. Supporters can help individuals navigate everyday choices, such as where to live, what activities to engage in, and how to pursue personal goals. This is all without the courts. My mom will talk about the steps we made for this termination of the conservatorship, and for me. Thank you for having me here. I'm going to classes now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, he's going to class right now. Thank you. And I will share the steps of the process of termination that we follow in my Spanglish. Okay. The first step that we follow is file a petition. Anyone interested, such a conservatee, or family member, can file a petition with the court to terminate the conservatorship. In our case, we filed a petition, I remember, in November 26, 2024. And I think the critical part of when you file for the petition is that you have to explain why the conservatorship is no longer necessary. And to fill out the form, you can do it by yourself or with the paralegal, for example. To fill it out, it doesn't mean that the paralegal will go with you for the hearing. In this petition, I mentioned that Fernando wanted to terminate the conservatorship, not only because after 7 years to be conserved, he's more independent, and also he wants to use supported decision making. The step number 2 is the court review and hearing. After filing the petition, the court schedules a hearing. The hearing in our case was in January 13, 2025. During this hearing, the judge reviewed the evidence, hears testimonies, our testimonies, and assess whether terminating the conservatorship in the best interest of the conservative. The conservative has the right to attend and present their case. It could be with the help of an attorney. In our case, we did not use an attorney. We didn't find any, and we prepare ourselves to be strong and be clear of what we wanted. Terminate the conservatorship because he are using supported decision making. It's important to note that the court also requested a personal report and recommendations from regional center. And in our case, I'm glad that the regional center made a good report to the court that was used as evidence. The step number 3 is investigation. A court appointed an investigator that may visit the conservative, will review the living situation, and provide report to the judge. In our case, at the end of the hearing, the judge appointed an investigator to visit Fernando on this March, but it's no March yet. It was canceled, the investigator appointed, and I will mention after that. And step number 4 is the compliance and paperwork. For this process, the petitioner notifies the relatives about the petition. It's redundant, but it's the petitioner, it's me. So in this case, I have to notify all the parties involved, like brothers, sisters, and grandparents. This is the step number 4. And the last one is court order. If the judge is convinced that the termination is justified, they will issue a court order ending the conservatorship. And in our case, or Fernando's case, on January 18, so 5 days after the hearing, we received a court order. It was stamped with the same date of the hearing, saying that Fernando conservatorship was terminated. And when I went to the court with the order and asked if that is that correct, because the judge appointed an investigator for this March to come to the house, as I mentioned before. And the court reviewed it in the system and told me that the investigator visit was canceled and the conservatorship was terminated. And I asked again, are you sure? Can you review again? And the person told me that it was correct and that it was terminated. And I remember I went back to my car and how my son saying, we did it. That's our story in few words. Thank you. I hope you understand.
Thank you so much, Victoria, for sharing. And to Fernando, I know he had to run off to class, but thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your story and the impact supported decision making has had on your life and being able to restore Fernando's rights and to be able to allow him to keep practicing that and having that autonomy in his life. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
And then we'll go back to some questions. I know Jennifer mentioned some questions about recourse when public agencies refuse to recognize or honor written supported decision-making agreement. I know a lot of people have chimed in, like Tao has chimed in. We have placed it, the document should be, it's called Supported Decision-Making Introduction for Professionals. It was written by Cal State East Bay, as well as DREDF, the Disability defense disability rights and education defense fund that tells them and gives excerpts of the law of your right to have supporters in the meeting, regardless of whether or not they have a supported decision-making agreement or not. But it also talks about the legal right of having a supported decision-making agreement and what must it include for it to be signed as well. And so, like Michaela mentioned, we're really sorry that you're experiencing that there. Try these documents to help them understand. A lot of issues we're facing is that because the law is so new, a lot of professionals aren't well educated on supported decision making yet. And unfortunately, that impacts our families and how they get services as well. But I know Mari has her hand raised.
Yes, hi everyone. I just want to say thank you to Victoria for sharing the story. And I just want everybody to realize how big this is because it's really, really difficult. Victoria make it seem that really simple, but let me tell you, I am part of also the Integrated Community Collaborative, and we hear horrible stories. It's very difficult and sometimes impossible to terminate a conservatorship. So Victoria make it look very simple, but I know it's not that simple. She is, if not the first one, especially a Latino mom, which is even more impossible for minorities to terminate the conservatorship. So this is a great deal for our community, for everyone, because you don't hear this that often. So congratulations, Victoria and Fernando, for this win, because that's actually an opening path for those who hopefully decide to terminate and start implementing the supported decision making in their lives instead of the conservatorship. So thank you for that. And I have just another question. Are you going to share the presentation for us, or it's going to be, I don't know, recorded?
Yeah.
And
It will be recorded and we can email out to registrants the recording once we have that. And we can also include the slides as well.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much because for myself, I've been advocating so hard within the master plan about the conservatorship versus the SDM because we need to start, talking about it more and start giving these trainings to all the agencies who provide services to our kiddos. That sometimes as soon as they turn 18, they don't no longer want to talk to us and they need to know about the alternatives to the conservatorship that, most of them, they don't even know that exist. So, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mari. Anyone else have any other questions? We can wait a little more to see if anyone else has any other questions, but after this, we're actually going to go into different breakout groups, which our lovely staff will help moderate. And we'll go through different topics such as brainstorming communication tools. Maybe you can share, people can share about what ways they help their child communicate their choices and what skills that they've used there. Talking about how to use supported decision making at the youngest age, thinking about where they can practice and promote decision making skills. Maybe it's a small choice, like deciding what meal they want to eat today or something like that, and how we can build up those decisions. We'll also give some examples of supported decision making in healthcare and finances. As well. And so it's a session for all of us to kind of brainstorm together, talk about different strategies because it's new for everyone. But we're already supported decision making as a law is so new, but it's something that all of us have been already practicing. And so it's important for us to learn from one another and from there build out what our supported decision making story is so that we can share with other parents and encourage them to use supported decision making as an alternative as well. And then I know some folks joined a little bit late. And so before we go into the different breakout rooms, we are going to launch the poll again, just which is the pre-training survey. So this is what you knew beforehand, before our training today. And so we're just going to go ahead and relaunch. Uh, I was going to relaunch it, but let me see. If I relaunch it, it takes away. We will look at the poll and then we might relaunch it after we come out from the breakout rooms. But if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and move into our different breakout rooms to talk more about supported decision making then.
So you'll see a little notice come up on your screen that says you have to accept your spot in your breakout room. If you don't see one, that's okay because Vivian is hosting a room in this main room too, so that just means you're staying here.
All right. Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing tonight?
Hi, Vivian. I'm all right.
Hi. I'm glad. Okay.
Hi.
Hi. Okay. So I just wanted to open it up. Maybe we can all go ahead and introduce ourselves really quickly. Just maybe your name and maybe what other programs. I think everyone here has completed some program at DVU, whether it's ELP or ELP or ambassador program. Maybe we can go around and just share, introduce ourselves first. I can start off with introducing myself again. Hi, everyone, again. I'm Vivian. I'm the project manager for our supported decision-making training and information center. I'm also a family member of someone with, of multiple people with disabilities, so have been involved with them all my life. And I first got introduced with DVU at a self-determination conference a couple years ago, and now I'm back here as staff. And so I'll pass it off to someone else.
Hi. My name is Sonia Morales, and I'm a TVU ambassador. I have a son with autism. He's 25 years old, and he is concerned.
Nice to meet you, Sonia. Tao, Michael, or Virginia. That's okay too. And then if you don't feel comfortable turning on cameras or unmuting yourself to share, feel free to use the chat to join in their conversation today too. So we'll go ahead and get started on talking about brainstorming communication tools. Maybe we want to share some ways you and your child communicate about decisions. So some examples can be maybe a choice board, maybe they use facial expression, gestures, or maybe they're a verbal communicator, they use AAC. Maybe we can all share some ways that our loved one communicates decisions and what tools you use to understand your child's preferences. So I think one example I have is when I was working as a caregiver for someone with autism, is we talked a lot about how she was a verbal communicator, but she needed to pause a lot for understanding. So when we were explaining choices, I always pause to give time for her to ask questions back. Oftentimes, she couldn't communicate exactly what she wanted. And so it would be like she would say she doesn't want this. Or let's say we're talking about a simple decision. Maybe it's about where she wants to eat for lunch. She'll talk about options that she doesn't want to eat today. And so from there, I'll help prompt her with choices about what she could possibly eat. Maybe she wants Chipotle instead, or maybe she wants this meal, or maybe she wants to cook something, presenting her with those options. Um, and then once maybe she doesn't decide exactly what she wants, but she sort of starts to show kind of a preference. Maybe she's a lot more excited talking about one option versus another option. I'll prompt her with, it seems like you're a lot more excited talking about having cooking dinner together rather than going out for dinner. So is that something that you would be interested in? So often repeating back their choices and really validating them and their thoughts. And so those are some strategies I used. Maybe we can share other strategies you may use for communication as well. Maybe Tao, Sonia, Michael, or Virginia, someone wants to share.
Hi. I think in my son's case, he's not verbal and he uses a communication app in his iPad. So what I can think of is like a put in a picture what is said like I need my mom help to decide this or something like that. That's what I think.
I think that's a great thing, especially using a communication app, prompting, having one of the choices being, I need some help with this decision, and giving them that option to know that there is support for them. I think that's a great strategy. Does anyone else have any other tips or communication tools they may use to share? Tao, Virginia?
I'll join your room too. Sorry, I had to step away to take care of my kid.
No worries.
Oh, I don't have any questions. I just enjoyed the lecture and everybody's comments.
Yeah, thank you, Virginia. And then our next kind of talking point is just talking together about talking about supported decision making and using it at the youngest age. Maybe thinking about a scenario that you could practice supported decision making at a young age to help promote decision making skills. Maybe we can share on that. I think. Well, how I like to think of supported decision making, especially before someone turns 18, it's like training wheels, right? Um, they can make some small decisions and they can be involved in making larger decisions with the safety of their parents there to back them up. We can only learn to make good decisions if we have practiced making decisions, and whether that's making the wrong one and learning from the consequences or not, but that's how we become better decision makers. And so some examples is for a young age, it's letting them choose between two outfits, maybe giving them two outfits to decide between, or maybe it's helping them decide on lunch, giving them choices on what toys they want to play with after school and things like that. Um, Maybe we can share. Do you think there's any other strategies we can use to kind of implement supported decision making at a younger age as well? Sonia or Virginia, any other thoughts you might want to add to the topic of supported decision making at the youngest age and kind of how to implement it more? Maybe some strategies you either of you may have used, but in the past.
Sorry, my son's a young adult, so I don't have much experience on the younger side of stuff. Sorry.
No worries. And then okay, if not, I know Sonia mentioned her child is older as well. We can talk about supported decision making in healthcare. So I'll give kind of an example here where imagine your child is very hesitant about their annual physical, as well as getting their flu shot. What are some strategies you could use to help support your child through this process?
Um, I just want to say, what you said about the going to the doctors, in my son's case, it has been very difficult because he had a hard time going in the community, especially he need to be in a small room, and they have to touch him or examine his ears or the mouth. He gets so stressed out, and that way I want to have the conservatorship because I want him to be examined and to take care of their health, and I was worried if he were allowed and a doctor to examine him, they won't do anything for him. That's the more important um, thing. I get a conservatorship because I did like a couple of years ago, but could be great in younger age. I'm a BT, a behavior technician. I'm not working in the field anymore, but we can implement it like in the textbooks or in the communication app as well. Or if they have a little language, they can tell the kid, what, explain them as much they can understand and say like a mom or dad, you want mom or dad to help you make these decisions. That's what I can think of.
Yeah. I think that's one of the good things, prompting your child to know that if they need help making the decision, but they can have mom and dad there. I know some other strategies is I know a lot of times it's difficult for them. For a doctor to be physical with your child, whether, like Sonia was mentioning, examining the ear, examining the mouth. I know with my family members, that's always difficult, especially if they have difficulties with that. Some strategies I've known that is very helpful is practicing it beforehand, letting them know what's going to happen. I think a lot of times it's about preparing them for the visit, whether it's tomorrow or next week we're going to be visiting the doctors. These are some things that are going to happen. They're going to have to examine your ear and talk about because a lot of times we go to the doctor just says, we're going to examine your ear now, we're going to examine your throat now. But a lot of times without understanding of why they are doing these things, people can get, especially those with disabilities, can get very nervous. They can get very anxious. And so preparing them beforehand, talking to them what the appointment will look like. And then for something like a flu shot, it's discussing beforehand, talking about the pros and cons of it, and then what to expect if they choose to get it, whether it's going to be a shot, and then letting them remember, do you remember last time we had to get a shot? It will be something similar to that. This is what you'll feel like afterwards, and just letting them be prepared. I know a big thing, especially, is at the dentist. Some strategies that we have taught other dentists to use is tell, show, do, telling your child what they're going to do, showing maybe it's, look, I'm going to use this tool right here to count your teeth, to look at your teeth, and then showing them on their hand. Or then maybe now they'll let them go into their mouth and do it. So it's just easing them into the process, letting them feel prepared for it. Hi, Francis. I know you were in here earlier. Were you in a specific breakout room? Breakout?
I was here, and then my connection was broken, so I just find the link and then get back again.
No worries. Were you with Monica?
Uh, I don't know.
Okay. Let me see. Or you can join our conversation here as well.
Yeah, it's good that the conservatorship is terminated, and originally I have think about that too, but now it's the new one, the SDM, may be another alternative that I
Yeah.
should think of.
Yeah. Is your child in kind of this transition age right now where they're
Yeah, he is 20 years old. He has autism.
20 years old? Yeah.
Yeah. So I originally I want to do the conservatorship, but now I think maybe I give it a hold and then see the SDM will works or not. And I think most of the thing SDM may help, and it may already good enough.
Yeah. That's what we tell a lot of our parents, like conservatorships, you take control over everything. But a lot of
Mm.
times, our children don't need that. They just need some extra support here or there. But there are other things too, like maybe they don't want to make any decisions about healthcare. You don't have to get a conservatorship to do that. You can also do a power of attorney and have be able to help them make those healthcare decisions as well.
Right, but my son is nonverbal, and so sometimes when we apply for disability, the agency asks, "Oh, are you the representative?" And luckily, last month we made it, and my wife is the representative. And then, but the disability has not yet passed it. It has been a year and a half already that we don't get any disability payment. So because of the how should I, bureaucracy or due process, whatever. So that's why I I I don't know how to expedite it.
Yeah, that one I'm not 100% sure about, but we can definitely look more into it and see as well. I do know that getting a lot of those services takes a long time. I know, like I just recently helped my grandmother try to get her services as well, and I know it took a really long time to be able to get her approved for those services and for one of our family members to be her representative as well.
Yeah, but it's a really good presentation today. It's really really good.
Thank you. And then um, we were just talking about, I don't know if you want to join in, Francis and Sonia and Virginia, on topics of more about, let's say our example was, let's say your child is very scared or hesitant about their annual physical at the doctor and getting their flu shot. What are some strategies you can help with them? And maybe, again, like you said, your child's nonverbal. So what are some strategies you can use to help them in that process?
Yeah, that's good. That's good to know. It does happen to me. Yeah, my son, he doesn't want to go to clinic at all.
Yeah, I know that's a big deal. And then I was mentioning to Sonia and Virginia, a big thing is the dentist. Like no one wants to go to the dentist. Um, I know some strategies is just like we were mentioning was preparing them beforehand, letting them know what it's going to be like. I think sometimes going to the doctors and not knowing what it's going to be like is really scary for them. So preparing them beforehand, maybe it's talking about we're going to go to the doctors next week. This is what it'll look like. We'll go to the waiting room. We'll do this. Then we'll go in there. They'll weigh you. They'll check your height. Then they'll have to check your throat. They'll have to check your ears. And they just want to make sure that you're healthy and give an example and maybe even say, like, let's practice it at home now. Maybe I'm going to pretend and do this so that you feel comfortable once we are able to get to the doctor's office.
Right. How can we do the SDM? Where can we do it? In the court or just the paper?
So
The sub
for SDM, you don't have to do anything at all. You can just start practicing it. And then like if the doctors uh, say, no, you can't be in here, technically you can show them the law. And we put it in the chat earlier. You have the right to be there and help support them. If you want to, though, you can create a supported decision-making agreement, which is kind of a form you fill out, and um, it was in the handbook that Michaela shared earlier. Um, and there it's a form you fill out and you say, like, let's say you're the supporter. So you'll put in your name and then you can talk about where you want to support them or where they want you to support them. And then you sign it in front of two other adult witnesses. So it can be, you can sign it in front of maybe your wife and then another adult. And that's how you sign that form. Or you can use a notary as well. But I know a lot of people oftentimes just use it in front of two other adult witnesses, but that's how you can get started with it.
Okay, awesome. I'm a notary, so
Oh, okay. I
I
know,
can do it for my wife. I mean, my wife
yeah.
is the supportive, then I will notarize. Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's difficult sometimes. Sometimes parents find it difficult to find a notary to sign documents, especially with people with disabilities, especially if their child is nonverbal or doesn't have the same like are non-speaking. And so
Mm,
I know a lot of times people mention that they have a hard time finding a notary that is willing to sign witness and sign documents for them.
right.
As a notary,
Awesome.
as a notary yourself, do you have any strategies for maybe parents who are looking for a notary to
Yeah,
sign?
I can be a pro bono. I can help out. Yeah. And I can, you can use my name, Francis Ha. And yeah, I can help out. Yeah. Because I, I was being helped by the other people before too. So just to give it away, my help to other who need me.
Thank you so much, Francis. We'll definitely let people know that.
Yeah.
Do you have maybe your contact information or is it
Yeah,
the
sure. I thought I did email, but I texted to you then. And then
okay.
in case, feel free to call me. Anyone can call me too. So just because as I mentioned, you guys help me a lot by having all these seminar. I gradually gain a lot of good information for my son.
I'm
Yeah,
so
he's
happy.
big. Hmm.
Let me give I just
Francis, are you
Yeah.
familiar with Friends with Special Needs? Friends of
Yeah, I am. My son is autism.
uh-huh.
He uh, he is what is your question again? Sorry.
Oh, I said, do you are you familiar with Friends of Children of Special Needs? It's an organization.
I do. I think I do attend once or twice, but
Okay, okay.
because I'm not active. He's my son.
Gotcha.
he he's playing. He's playing in the house. Hello, hello, hello. And yeah, okay. And I believe they have a monthly meeting, something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean they also like because
It's
uh
called Family of Support, right? It's family
families of us like families of special needs.
family of special need.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I do attend once or twice, but because I'm not that active, sometimes I miss some of the meetings. So uh I'm not that I think I do. I think I do attend one or twice
Okay.
the
All right. It's
seminar.
just
They
that
are pretty good too.
if they may have more things that they offered a lot of different types of services. So And maybe there's some also additional advocacy they could also help you with too.
Yeah, I definitely need.
Thank you so much for sharing, Virginia. You said it was families of special needs?
I'll send I'll put the link on it. Yeah, because I get it's kind of awkward.
Yeah,
So
please.
let me just I'll put the link.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's good. Then I can copy it and then I can contact them.
And then we only have about 5 minutes left in our breakout session. So I just wanted to see if maybe any of you had any other questions that you may have. I'm here to answer it. And if I don't know the answer, I will find it out for you.
Vivian, what is the 760 number? Is that your phone number?
Yes, that is.
Oh,
I know you would put it in.
okay, got you.
It's just one thing for you, Vivian. Francis probably knows, but also if anybody's looking for notaries, I don't know as much about them being deaf or non-speaking and those parts, but there are like mobile notaries. So
Mm-hmm.
if there's people can't get around, they could come to them.
Yeah, I can get around to come to them too. I mean, if it because I live in San Francisco, so I think the Bay Area, East Bay, Oakland, Fremont, things like that. If it is like Sacramento, maybe it's a little bit too far.
You're too nice, Francis.
Oh.
The commute
No,
would
because yeah, a lot of people help me, and luckily I joined you guys, the DVU, and also I did believe that I attend twice, but I was very late. I keep telling a lot of people, a lot of parents that don't copy me. I'm if I do a lot of things earlier, I'm in terms of years, not days or months. If I can do a lot of things like several years ago, it will absolutely a different pictures. That's why I just don't want other people to follow my procrastination. I think I procrastinate. That's the main thing that I just want to let other people know. Some of the things, if you procrastinate, time's gone, and then even though you work hard on it, it doesn't have that much effect.
Yeah.
Right. Is your son an SDP?
SDP, autism. What is SDP?
Is he in regional center?
Oh, yeah, luckily he is in regional center, maybe only 4 or 5 years ago. But
GGRC?
here, yeah, Golden Gate. And then
Yeah.
I just have the respite only a year. And then I just have IHSS only 2 years. And so I think if I can have that kind of services that help, like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, then even though the ABA, I don't have it yet. During the COVID, I have an ABA, but the ABA already said that it's too late and they don't have enough people. And so I even take the time to get graduate from the BT, behavioral therapist. Now
Oh,
I'm a certified registered
you
BT.
yeah, but if even so if you have a denial letter from your insurance that they won't give you ABA, then you can ask regional center to pay for ABA for you.
Yeah, now I'm kind of like working with the GGRC to get the ABA, but luckily because I passed the BT exam, and so I work in other establishment to learn the behavioral therapies things. like the positive reinforcement, and then I use it in real for my son, like all the DTT, like the picture thing, like the iPad, the iPad, the iPad thing, and well, some of these works, some of it doesn't, but at least I was trained. Yeah, like the transition. Before I have no idea what does it mean by transition. Actually, the transition is not the school transition thing. It's like when my son go back from school, then he need a transition time to go inside my house. And so this is, yeah, he is. Yeah, he's big. And so we are working on his weight also. Oh, back to this group. All right, sorry.
No, you're all good. Loving the conversations that everyone is having and parents just supporting other parents about services and everything like that. So welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone had a good time in their sessions and learned a lot and shared with other parents and family members about it. Maybe we can hear some people share out some of the conversations they may have had in the breakout groups.
I think I'm gonna appoint Amina in my group. She did an amazing job.
Did I just get see when I try to be quiet all the time? So, what part do we want to ask a question? I talk so much. What do you want to know? Just any, because we talked about a lot. And I was talking about my son. Is there any specific piece of it that you would like me to bring back up?
No, I think just share something that you may think that other parents would find helpful or
I like the highlight for me was raising your child to not need you. And you had a great conversation about that, how you've been doing that since he was a child.
Right.
And I
So,
loved that.
so basically, again, and there's a thing called Love and Logic. It's a book, but it's just a premise to start. And again, it's my personality type, etc. He's his own person. I'm my own person. He's a little person, and he has a brain. So when he was young, I trained him in terms of coaching and training. This is your stuff. This is my stuff. If you need something, let me know. What do you want? What do you need? I'm there to guide you and help you to be your individual person. If you need something, you need to let me know, whether it's talking, whether it's writing it out. Like right now, he's 24, so he can do all of those things. But I started him out that way because it's a two-way conversation. It's a two-way street. So again, in that way, I had him learn how to look at the world and how the world sees him. I also mentioned that in every possible way, the best thing I could ever do for him is for him to not need me. If he less he needs me, the better I've done my job. Now he will need some things in a manner of support, but that is ultimately my goal. The more successful he can be on his own and knowing how to have a village around, not just me, I'm his mother. He doesn't just need to be around me at all. He needs to be around different people. He needs to get different viewpoints. He needs all of those things to help him develop himself. And he, as we all grow, we see things maybe differently as we get older or develop. So he needs to have those experiences. He needs to have other people around him where maybe there's a different viewpoint that I don't have. My son is a heterosexual male. He's going to have some differences in the way I look or think, or he may not want to talk to me about those things. That is fine as long as you get someone who knows what they're talking about and they're educated. So I'm not going to treat him any differently than what I would want for anybody else or myself. I don't hide anything from him. The things that he's capable of understanding, he does. He gets a chance to make mistakes because he needs to make them. I just don't, try to let him make them where it's not so far out that it's gone. So he gets to live life, but he just gets coaching. So that way, the more he goes out, the better he's able to handle it. And if he doesn't believe something's right, think something's right, feel something's right, just don't do it. Don't do it. Ask somebody, talk about it. Don't sign anything, whatever. You don't have to make a decision or do anything you don't want to do if you don't feel comfortable, period.
Thank you so much for sharing, Mina. I think those are amazing takeaways, and it's all about teaching our children to be more independent and to learn that they can have support and they should have a wide, like, you love the word that you use, a village. we all need a village, and I think it's important to know and recognize who that village is, and to start teaching them that from a young age as well. So thank you so much for sharing. I know Tao has her hand raised.
Yeah, I was about to say something, but then we have a few seconds left in the breakout room. But I wanted to mention about the getting a doll. So I know this actually did happen with my child, since there was a time when she was very afraid of getting shots. So it took a while, but just getting a doll and just you know of course not getting the actual syringe, but to get like a little toy syringe here and or like the barrel of the syringe and like have the child kind of model what you're doing. I was like, okay, um um like the child is non-speaking, so in this case, you would have to really use like social stories, use lots of pictures, visuals, so they can see what they can anticipate knowing what's going to happen when they get into the doctor's office. And then also to let them know like, okay, this is gonna be on their skin. Just as this shot would be on that doll. You'll get the same thing here. And yeah, they're not gonna like it. Yeah, they will cry. But now it has gone to a point where she got used to it. She know what to expect. But it does start when they're young.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think those are some great strategies. And we talked about it in our group as well. I think it's modeling it and making them feel prepared for it, prepared for a visit, like we mentioned with the doctors. Maybe it's going through the whole process of going to the doctors. You know, we're going to go to the doctors first. We're going to be in the waiting room. We're going to be in there for a little bit of time. We have to fill out some paperwork. What will it look like after? We might go back. We might have to get on the scale now. We have to get your height. I know Sonia mentioned in our group talking about an aversion of doctors touching them, right? Not wanting the doctors to do a check in their mouth and their ears. So maybe preparing them for that. You know, the doctor is going to have to check your ears, check your throat, because they're looking for this, because they're wanting to make sure that you're healthy, giving them reasons for why things are going to happen to them rather than letting them just be surprised, and letting them understand what exactly is going to happen to them, why it's happening to them, and making them feel prepared. For these visits as well. So thank you so much for sharing. I know Gilda has her hand raised.
Something that came up in our group. There's a few things we were able to cover. There were some things that we weren't able to cover, like financial and healthcare. We had to come back to the main room, but the communication, using different like multimodal communication to communicate, and um when checking for understanding, something that came up is like narrowing it down to what it is that they're wanting to convey, and using different methods to do this. We also talked a lot about the decision making skills and how it's okay to fail sometimes. We all do, and we're all human. And so I think especially people with disabilities are it's almost like they can't fail, or else it's like, oh, we must take away like their rights, or it's very extreme in their responses. So just talking about how a lot of the families and parents and caretakers are doing the best they can. And so knowing that, that's all we can do, but always practicing decision making skills in everything that we do with our loved one or with our child.
Thank you so much for sharing, Gilda. And I think that's a big thing that we've heard a lot of family members talk about, how it feels like their child with a disability cannot fail, or they've made one bad decision, therefore they're now incapable of making any decisions. But I think Gilda was really driving the point home of you need to make wrong decisions sometimes to learn from your mistakes, and that's how you make better decisions. You can't continue to be, it's a skill, right? We continue to learn every day. You can't learn to make better decisions if you don't have the chance to make wrong ones sometimes and to learn from those consequences. And so I think that's a big thing and a part of the dignity of risk of that we all have. Mari, go ahead.
Yeah, I love that what you just said because it's also important to let them know that's okay to make mistakes. You know, we make mistakes. So I always try not to talk to my son not to feel bad when he makes mistakes. So, you know, no one is perfect, you know, and I make mistakes all the time. So when I say that he feels happy, that is not just him. But going back that we're trying to prepare them to, like, you know, somebody mentioned the doctor's office. I think we also need to communicate with those specialists or those people who are new in our kiddos' lives to tell them more about our kids. You know, I'm preparing my kid, but I also want the other person to know who my kid is. You know, I share in my group that my son is no longer in high school, thank God. But when he was in school, and I always write letters, you know, to the new teachers at the beginning of the school year, or when a teacher coming into, you know, into his life, you know, trying to describe who my son was and what needs that he had, you know, so they better understand him. Because sometimes we prepare them, but we don't talk to the teacher, we don't talk to the doctors, and you go to the office, and I've been in situations, you know, when they didn't know, or maybe the doctor who was supposed to be there was sick or he didn't make it and was somebody else. So I said, can I, you know, before I go into the room, I said, can I talk to you for a minute? So he knows, you know, when my son was little, if he doesn't want you to touch him, or you have to prepare him, or tell him ahead of time, you know, I have to touch you, I have to leave you sure because, or whatever that you're going to do, it's important that they know that we as parents communicate with the doctors or teachers or whoever is working with our kiddos. So you know, the outcome is better for our kiddos too, so they don't be misunderstood.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Mari. I think that's important as our role as family members, as parents, to be their advocate. Maybe when they don't know or they don't know how to share those preferences yet, and how we can share with them the types of communication preferences they are, or what types of interactions they're comfortable with, or what they need to feel supported or to feel safe in different types of interactions. And that's important as our role as supporters as well. So I'm so glad of all the conversation that we've been having.